The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience Waste Management Open Picks research, and we don't even have to guess the odds because the odds have been released at certain locations that we can dig into to see if there's any high value guys that we want to take already, or see if we want the market to come back to us. FantasyNational.com/Mayo gets you 20% off at Fantasy National, which gets you the tools, the stats, the leaderboard, and you'll be able to see it on the screen as I do my walkthrough right now. You're going to want to get in and get that 20% off any of the deals. All right? This is no longer a signature event. It wasn't last year either, but the first year that they actually did the signature events, the Waste Management Phoenix Open was rewarded, I suppose, for being a linchpin. The greatest success, I think, of the past 10 years or so has been this tournament, and awarding it as having all of the very top players on the PGA Tour come play this location and enjoy the crowds that are a lot. I went there for my bachelor party, and I saw 20 fistfights in the crowd. It's actually may have become a bit much over the past few years. It seems like they're trying to rein that in a little bit. However, the signature status was taken away from Phoenix a year ago and given to Pebble Beach. We know that tournament got rained out last year. It's currently going on as I speak in frigid conditions, and it looks like we're going to get a ton of cold and wind on the weekend, but it honestly makes a ton of sense to do it this way because of the scheduling that takes place. Phoenix lines up better as the lead-in to the Super Bowl. It's fun. Players are very familiar with the course and the atmosphere, really. It's a good pre-Super Bowl party type atmosphere to turn on, and people enjoy the gigantic crowds, people getting rowdy, you're getting rowdy for the Super Bowl, and they always try to make sure it ends. They've tried to push it back earlier now that it won't bleed into the Super Bowl. We almost had that last year with the Nick Taylor and Charlie Hoffman playoff. Alas, that did not go down. And one of the fun things about Phoenix, it's generally tight coming down the stretch. There's been a lot of talk about ratings, and I don't want to keep talking about ratings, but one point that I rarely bring up when we go back and really retroactively look at why was Nick Dunlap's American Express so much higher than Seb Straka's, or even the year before when John Rahm was playing? Well, I can kind of tell you that when a golf tournament is close down the stretch, people tend to watch it. When you have Seb Straka running away with it and no one's within 4 shots of him, guys aren't going to watch that. It doesn't matter if it's Seb Straka. I mean, if it was Tiger Woods, that's one thing. We don't live in a Tiger Woods era. That was almost a decade ago, the last time he was really running on full juice, where he would play periodically and people would tune in. But it really wouldn't matter who it is at the top of the leaderboard. If they're up by a bunch of strokes, it's not that entertaining. It's a runaway. People aren't going to be invested to watch. Phoenix, playoffs, 1-stroke victories, this is the norm, hence making it a really good lead-in for the Super Bowl, and why this doesn't need to be a signature event. People like this tournament. It is fun. Pebble Beach needed the shot in the arm with all of the top players. You have one of America's most iconic courses that has a tournament that is brutal to watch. The Pro-Am was awful, especially the 3-course rotation. And then when you actually tune in on Saturday, you get this easy course with a bunch of celebrities that you don't care about and a bunch of players who aren't there. All of the best players were either playing overseas or just taking the week off because it's not fun to play in a 3-course rotation Pro-Am, even if it is at Pebble Beach. Like I said, it's not like it's super warm that time of year. Now you force all of the top players to go to Pebble Beach. You showcase the course. You cut the stupid Pro-Am to 36 holes instead of 54, and you get all of your best players at the iconic location. Is this going to save the Pebble Beach AT&T Pro-Am? I don't know. But the PGA Tour has so few wins, or at least wins in the sense of, hey, this was a really logical decision. Phoenix doesn't need all of the star power. It is a star in itself. The 16th hole is a star. It's something that people know and will tune into. As much as maybe some of us in the golf bubble don't love it as much for what it's turned into, for a casual viewer, it is awesome. I remember how much even 15 years ago, man, this is really cool, this stadium hole. Now that I've been there, I've done that. I know a lot of you who are watching this and listening right now have done exactly the same thing. It's kind of passé at this point, but you have to remember how much fun that is to watch. With Pebble, it needs to be resurrected somehow, and this is the best way to do it. We'll see if that translates. It's only year 2. Last year got rained out, so that was just literally a wash from that sense when you had no Sunday golf. Maybe this year you can start to see it turn around, because this stretch of Torrey Pines, Pebble Beach, Waste Management, and we're going back to Torrey Pines next week, but normally that would be at Riviera, is just such a great 4-week stretch for the PGA Tour that they really do need to capitalize on, because the moment that hits, you have your preseason events with Hawaii and Amex, then you get into this stretch where guys play, it does matter, the courses are a little bit more difficult, which people tend to like, and they're closer tournaments, and then you get the iconic course with Pebble in the mix as well, one that everyone knows. That I do think it's a very logical decision, so I applaud you, PGA Tour, for making a decision that's not completely ludicrous and moronically stupid. No, this is a logical, smart decision, and we'll see if it works. Not every good decision works, but it is something that they need to do, because this tournament doesn't need any more juice to it. And frankly, even though it's not a signature event, the field is still really good at the Waste Management Open. They still draw because people like to come and play this tournament. If you're an up-and-comer or even an established guy on tour and you want to make yourself into a bigger star, well, a lot of people watch this tournament because it's the Super Bowl lead-in. It's a fun tournament. So the field itself didn't need the signature status in order to draw the guys. That's what Pebble Beach needed, because the biggest star every year was Patrick Cantlay, who's not really lighting up the screen with his magnetism. I hope he can come back and win this week, because I bet on him, but I don't see that so much in the cards. At least from now, I'm doing this after the second round, before the beginning of the third round at Pebble Beach, to really look through that. But Scotty Scheffler's in the field. He won here twice. He played it even last year when Nick Taylor won. He won the 2 years previous to that. He is back in the field. Justin Thomas is in the field this week. So those are two big names. Hideki's won here twice. He's playing. Ricky's playing. Spieth is playing for the second consecutive week, coming off his injury. Sungjae, Burns, Connors, Victor, Sahith, the immortal Seb Straka, apparently. No one has got more juice from shaving their head since like Lex Luthor than Seb Straka. You get rid of that terrible horseshoe around you, not only do you look younger. Shout out to my bald friends out there. My roommate in college is still one of my best friends, the other Tim that people may know from my group chat that I post out from time to time. Tim Butts. He went gray at 19 and he started losing his hair at 20. He legitimately looked 45 years old at age 23. At age 25, he said, screw this, I'm going with the Mr. Clean. And you know what? He looked like he was 25 again. He was just bald and had a completely shaved egghead, as my kids would say. And it's a good look. It's a good look on Sepp. And look, he's at the top of the leaderboard again after winning 2 weeks ago. Maybe this was the superpower he always needed to harness. You have all those guys in the field. Then you even have a great second tier. You got both Højgaards in the field. A lot of like the good Euros are playing. Bobby Mack, Grazerman's playing, Ben An, Tom Kim. Wyndham Clark is in the field this week. Nick Taylor coming back to defend his title. Mav McNeely, Bo Hossler. Man, woo! Lee. Luke Clanton, if he finishes inside the top 5 this week, will turn professional and earn his PGA Tour card. He's just waiting to qualify through PGA Tour U, and a top 5 finish would do that for him. If not, I believe he'll probably have to wait to Bay Hill. If he gets himself into Bay Hill as an amateur, I believe he would then have enough points to actually earn his full PGA Tour card. There'd be no reason to go pro until you did that. Ask Nick Dunlap. I mean, when he won the American Express last year as an amateur, he gets a 3-year exemption. Why wouldn't you turn pro? After that point, that's what you're playing to go do. Clanton is in that same boat right now. He's just come close to winning, just hasn't won, and I believe the top 5 will give him enough to do it. So the field is super strong this week. It's 132 players. It's a real cut. It's only one course, which is just glorious to see. So I'm very excited for Phoenix, and even as some quick notes to look through what type of courses to look for, and we'll dig more into this when we get to the research on fantasynational.com/Mayo to get 20% off, is that U.S. Open players play really well here. Now, is that because the players who play in Phoenix, who also do well in U.S. Opens, just they're the best players in the field? But there's like a real who's who. When we get to the former champions list at TPC Scottsdale, that you don't see like a lot of jabroni winners. Like Nick Taylor is like one of the biggest jabroni winners ever. He has 5 wins on the PGA Tour now. He comes from the school of golf. He either wins or misses the cut. And he went through his big missed cut streak, and when he gets into contention, dude is a closer. He's going to close. But the years before that, you had Scotty, you had Ricky, you had Hideki, Webb Simpson. So Scotty, and Brooks is a 2-time winner here. He's won a U.S. Open. Webb Simpson has won a U.S. Open. Hideki has 3 top 6s in U.S. Open. Ricky has 3 top 5s in U.S. Open. Scheffler had 3 consecutive top 5s in U.S. Opens until last year. Because the easy one to look at when you do the crossover is the Players' Championship. Like so many guys that have won in Phoenix have also won at TPC Sawgrass. And the TPC courses do have a little bit of a correlation to them, but I think more so now that the Players is in March, you have the POA Overseed. That's the same sort of putting surface that we have in Phoenix this week. There could be a direct correlation there, but we've seen Ricky win both those events. Webb Simpson has won both those events. I mean, Hideki, if you believe Cuss, has won both those events because he won the Players when the first round wasn't finished in 2020. Scotty obviously won consecutive Players Championships and won here. And when we think about the U.S. Open thing, Gary Woodland won this event and he won the U.S. Open. So there's a lot of them to look at. There's many different angles that you can take this week. I don't know which one is right, which one is wrong, but we're going to try to find a winner this week because I'm crossing my fingers that maybe someone in Bahrain comes through, but Pebble Beach is not looking great for me because I did not bet on Seb Straka, although if Cantlay or Thomas can make a move on Saturday, and I kind of hope it really toughens up on Saturday and Sunday because it will bring so many more of the players back into the mix from the middle, that's where I'm aiming for this week. But I do have some free money for you if you're interested in that. Code Mayo at Underdog right now. This is a great time. If you haven't signed up for Underdog, now is probably the best week of the year you can do it because they're literally begging you to join with free money. There is a $15, whatever you want to do with it, free play up there. I mean, if you use code Mayo, you get a $1,000 deposit bonus with how much you deposit, or up to at least. You get a free pick of Travis Kelce for the Super Bowl that you can add to anything. But even in the lobby, they're just offering 60% boost, 50% boost, a multiple of them. One thing I've been doing, they've been offering if you make a $5 NBA only or NHL only play, you unlock a 50% boost. I mean, I don't know anything about it. I'm just clicking random names, losing the $5 and getting myself these boosts, which you can bet like at least up to $100 on. But there's the $15 full go. You can basically make a same game parlay for $15 and it's a free $15 that you can do it. If you lose, they just give you the money back in terms of Underdog credit. And you get that all on top of the free pick and the $1,000 bonus as well, up to, if again, I think you have to deposit, was it $1,500 to get $1,000, $2,000 to get $1,000? Anyway, it's a deposit bonus of free money that you're going to get. But I would juice this up. Maybe we'll make one we're doing the spread show on Monday evening for Tuesday morning. Maybe we'll cook up an 8-legger or something that pays like 75 to 1. It's a free bet for $15. So we're just going to try to turn it into as much money as we can. If you lose, you get the money back. So please support this show, support Underdog, code Mayo at your first deposit right now and sign up and you get access to all of that. If you've used code Mayo in the past, I believe you'll get that $15 free bet as well. So thank you for the long-time support. There's $15. Let's talk about the course in Scottsdale. A Tom Weisakoff redesign in 2002. TPC Scottsdale is 7,261 yards. It's a par 71, although don't let that fool you because the par 5s play incredibly easy, except for number 15. That can go either way. More on that in a minute. POA Overseed for the greens. The average green size is just a shade under 7,100 square feet. That's right around average on the PGA Tour. A little bit above average, but not gigantic compared to some of them. 67 bunkers along the course. 6 holes with water in play. If you're looking for a great spot to go watch the action at TPC Scottsdale, I highly recommend the green at number 6 to the left-hand side. You get to see all of the drives and approaches come up, and it's a 2-tiered green. It's very difficult to putt on, and then you're right at hole number 7, which is a par 3, and you can see all of those shots. If you want to see maximum amount of golf, that is the spot to go to. Waiting in line for 16 is a fool's errand. Either you're rich enough or know someone to get into a box, or just say, no thank you, I will waste my time somewhere else where I can actually see golf shots and not have to stress out of being there at 3 o'clock in the morning and get into a foot race with anyone. The par 3s, the average distance is 189 yards. 2 of the 4 most difficult holes on the course are par 3s. That's hole 7 and hole number 12. 4 of the 5 highest par rates as well come on these par 3s. Nick Taylor was minus 23 during his win here a year ago, and he played the par 3s and on the front 9 at even par. 1 bogey, 1 birdie, and the rest of them pars. Just tread your water on the par 3s. Do not blow up. Make your bones elsewhere because there's some easy stretches on this course if you want to get into it. 2 of the 3 most difficult holes on the course are par 4s on the back 9. Holes 11 and 14. The average distance of all the 11 par 4s are 440 yards. 3 of the shortest par 4s, 1, 10, and 17, are amongst the 6 easiest holes on the course, while the 4 longest, 5, 8, 11, and 14, are amongst the 8 toughest. No big shocker with that one. Nick Taylor had no issues with the par fours on the back nine. He had 7 birdies and no bogeys a year ago, but 2 of his 3 bogeys of the week came on par fours, because the par fives, 3 of the 4 easiest holes on the course, all carrying an eagle rate of at least 2.4%, but hole 15 is the hinge hole of the course. There's massive swing potential. 17 can be that way too. That's why the conclusion of this tournament is always so much fun, because you have those 2 holes sticking out, and then you have the par 3, the short one, which is not a very difficult hole if the stress doesn't get to you. You can basically flight a wedge in there and make birdie. You can go eagle, birdie, eagle over 15, 16, and 17 if you get lucky enough. I mean, that's basically how Brooks was able to come back in both of his wins when he won here ages ago now. That was one of the very first things. I think the first year that we did this golf show was the Brooks Koepka winner at 40-1 that we gave out when no one knew who he was in 2004, I want to say that. 2015, sorry. So it was the year after, the first time we did Waste Management as a betting show with Jeff and I. That was one that we gave out. That was a fun one. The par fives aren't going to impact your search for streaks because they're so far out on this one, but going back to front does offer a slight edge in single round showdown. It's not worth prioritizing, but there is something there because holes 17 and 1 are pretty easy. So if you can sneak one on number 18, the streak to build up that way does become a little bit easier. The par fives, as I mentioned, are not going to impact your streaks in that regard. That's why I'm not going out of my way to build out of order in that sense. So, taking a look at the course overall, 11 players who have won in Phoenix have also won the Players' Championship. Scheffler joined that list 2 years ago when he won at Scottsdale Scottsdale and won at Sawgrass. And like I said, it's 12 if you believe Cuss, and Hideki also won in 2020 as well. But the weird thing is I was trying to look between the courses and figure out why that's the case, outside of just simply being both TPC courses and having the same putting surfaces, similar time of year now in March. But that wasn't always the case when the Players was played in May, and we still had crossover between these events. It does have a series of long par fours that are difficult, but that's kind of it. Like when I think about Sawgrass and I think about the correlation between those places, I think the Wyndham Championship. It's short. It's Bermuda in the rough. Like it's set up in a very similar way, and there's so much water at Sawgrass that it becomes like, okay, I think like Sony, Heritage, Wyndham, like that style of course would be the ones that I would want to look at as a part of that rota. But the Wyndham / Scottsdale correlation doesn't really happen all that much. I think Hideki, I can't remember if Hideki won Wyndham or not. He played there like once, and I think he did pretty well. But other than that, like, there's not really much to talk about. Webb Simpson does well at both, but those are 2 of the better players that play in those fields. So maybe they're just good. That's why they win. So it was really trying to rack my brain about how this is going to work. Like the other Weisakoff course on tour is TPC Craig Ranch. So maybe that's an angle in if you're looking for guys from the bottom of the pack. In my article this week, I will have, and we'll probably look at it here as well on the show, but if you want more of a list, I mean, obviously you can go search that on Fantasy National, but I'll have the screenshot in the article that I release both in the newsletter, and I'm releasing those articles on X. I want to thank all of you for going through everything on X and liking that, sharing that around, responding to it. Getting the engagement in the algorithm for those articles has been very successful, and frankly, it's really been helping. So I really want to thank you for that. It takes like 3 seconds to hit the share on it. If you can continue to do that, I would love that very much. You can just always sub to the newsletter for free as well and just get that article sent directly to you. We're still looking for venues in Toronto for June 7th. That is the Saturday of the Canadian Open, the week before the U.S. Open, the week before Father's Day. I hope to see all of you wherever we end up picking. Right now, it's looking like there might be like 300 people coming to this thing. So please do get to me, whether it be an Instagram message, replying to the newsletter to tell me if you are coming, because I'm trying to find the venue. I want to make sure that if people are coming, they can get their tickets, and we're going to have enough room for everybody. Or I don't want to book a space too large, pay way too much money, and have 200 people show up when I booked it for 500, something like that. So the more you might be known, or even if you have interest in coming, please let me know. And if you've never been to Toronto, go get your passport. It's an international class city. It's going to be a lot of fun to go to. If you've ever been to New York, it's like that, but cleaner. And not quite as exciting. Although, the bars aren't open until 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. in Toronto. They're open till like 1. So you can't get yourself into that much trouble. Although there are strip clubs all around. So there is a way to get themselves in trouble. Just ask a lot of the NBA guys that come in and have to play those early Sunday games. Hence why the Raptors used to always cover those spreads. Because the opposing team would be out all night long at some of these places. Most weeks, approach and putting matter the most of any stats, but Scottsdale is one of the few courses that has a complete flat distribution of the individual tee to green metrics. Like, you don't see approach being 4 times as weighted as around the green. Now, like, guys chip in a bunch here. Guys, it's difficult to chip from the short grass as well, so you need to have that good overall tee to green game. You can't be hitting from the desert the entire time, or that place where I saw a bunch of people smoking joints just off that 6th fairway, because like in the middle of the desert trees, that's where people are going to do it. If you want to sneak away and not get caught, that's the spot where you probably want to go. But you need to be, you drive it a ton. It's a little bit of elevation. It rolls out a ton. 61% of drives go over 300 yards. So it's a driver heavy course. You need to hit your wedges pretty close, be in control of your long irons, and make sure if you miss the green, you're not going to be just chipping it like 20 feet by, because the chipping is pretty difficult here. Putting is super easy, though. Like inside 25 feet, I think it's the easiest course on tour. Guys make bombs all the time on this course. And I mentioned the name brand players that tend to win and the U.S. Open ones. Brooks, Webb, Woodland, all 4 U.S. Open champs, they've all won. Webb won in 2011, I think, at the U.S. Open, but he won here in 2020. And all those other guys, they've won the U.S. Open semi-recently within the past 10 years. And if you think that Scotty would be another one to think about as well. The attack strategy, as I mentioned, despite playing about 400 yards shorter than the South Course at Torrey Pines, going to be big bombs off the tee. Summerlin averages the 2nd highest driving distance on tour at just over 300 yards. Phoenix is first. Both desert courses, both played at elevation, so that makes a ton of sense. Maybe with all the water and being good at avoiding it, maybe that's actually the link between Scottsdale and Sawgrass. And, hey, I'm going to drive it over here so I don't drive it in the water. Maybe at Scottsdale, it's like, hey, maybe I'm going to drive it over here so I don't drive it in the middle of the cacti and get it stuck in my ass like I'm Spencer Levine and have to smoke an entire pack of cigs on the back 9 while I'm melting down to Kyle Stanley. Still, one of my single favorite moments ever on the PGA Tour. It was very sad for him. But the other key hole besides number 15 is number 17. It's that drivable par 4. It's a spot on the course to gain back significant strokes. It's just 323 yards. Every player in the field can take a crack at it, but there's water looming on the left side. So both eagle and bogey are in play. But it's not even really a risk-reward proposition. There's no point of laying up. Even if you drive it into the water, it's not like it's a huge body of water. You get to drop, 30 yards from the green? You can still up and down it, and that's fine. When they have the pin at the very back, it is difficult to two-putt from that range. Even if you're two-putting, like you're putting from eagle from 75 feet from the front of the green, getting the correct speed down that hill is pretty difficult. You just see players struggle with it a lot of the time. And considering the field makes a birdie at 38% of the time on this hole, and eagle more than 1%, like there's just little incentive to lay up. In 2020, 51 balls found the water off the tee, 63 landed on the green, and it's not like the guys who found the water were making double bogey. It was bogey at worst from that situation. Since 2000, just 9 54-hole leaders have gone on to convert on a Sunday. Only 3 since 2009, or 4 since 2009, because Nick Taylor was able to do that last year. Johnny Miller, Matsuyama, and Scheffler are the only players ever to win back-to-back in Phoenix. Well, Arnie, Phil, Mark Calcavecchia, and are the only 3-time winners of this event. There have been multiple repeat winners since 2000, though. Mickelson, Matsuyama, Koepka, Scheffler, and J.B. Holmes have each won this tournament twice since the turn of the millennium. This event has gone to a playoff 6 of the past 9 years and was settled by 1 stroke twice. Again, why the ratings for this and why the interest in this would be pretty high, because Nick Taylor beat Charlie Hoffman in a playoff a year ago, and just you have that drama coming down the stretch. Even the year before, it was Scheffler versus Nick Taylor versus Jon Rahm coming down the stretch. Like, that's intriguing TV, and Theegala had every opportunity to win until he actually drove it into the water on 17 and wasn't able to get it up and down for par, and that was the end of him. All time, only 10 players have won their first appearance at Scottsdale dating back to 1932. Brooks Koepka, Kyle Stanley, and J.B. Holmes are the only players to accomplish that feat this millennium. Scrambling in greens and regulation are higher than tour average, while hitting fairways is slightly below, 59% to 62%. As reflected in the green and regulation rate, the rough isn't very penalizing. If you're in the rough, it's fine. Just don't be in the desert, because then you'll go full Spencer Levine, and that might be a bit problematic. If you're someone who's ever taken a golf trip, I know you have the same experience I do, that you dread bringing your clubs to the airport, dealing with the baggage claim, and then crossing your fingers, hoping that they show up, because that is one of the most stressful parts about any golf trip, because you don't want to show up to your fantastic golf location. You're all excited to go there, and oh yeah, we lost your clubs. Even PGA Tour players deal with this. So every time I fly for a golf trip now, I am no longer dealing with the airlines and the baggage handlers to do that. I'm skipping the airport stress, the costly airline fees, and with the complimentary insurance, real-time tracking, dedicated support, and on-time delivery, ShipSticks is where I am going. I've already hooked it up for when I'm going to Pinehurst at the end of March. Me and Tim Butts' clubs are getting there via ShipSticks, so we can make sure that they are there before we show up, so that stress never enters a part of our life. You can travel worldwide without the luggage. ShipSticks delivers to over 180 countries, hassle-free, gear-free journey. Everything you need for your golf vacation will be there on time waiting for you with ShipSticks. Right now, ShipSticks is offering my listeners 20% off your first shipment when you go to shipsticks.com and use the code PATMAYO. Go to shipsticks.com and use the code PATMAYO to get 20% off your first shipment and save yourself the hassle this golf season. That's shipsticks.com, and make sure to use that code PATMAYO so they know I sent you. If you're like me, the end of December really got you out of your regular routine. What you do the other 50 weeks a year did not apply to those 2 weeks. Family, kids, Christmas, whatever it is you're doing, it was difficult to do. Plus, it's cold out. That's never any fun. But the way that you can get yourself back on track, if you didn't in January already, is get some AG1 in your life the moment you wake up. That's what I do. Pour some water into my AG1 bottle. Boom! I take a scoop of AG1. Throw that in. I cut it with a little bit of orange juice just to make it more delicious. And since I'm going very, very weights heavy at the gym these days, because I tore my calf muscle and can't run anymore, so I really got to bulk up, I've been throwing in a scoop of protein powder as well. Getting that all into me, firing it in, first thing I do when I wake up, and gotta tell you, listen to the energy I have. It's never too late to create a new, healthy habit for 2025, so try AG1 for yourself. It's something I've actually been able to stay consistent with, and that's why I'm so excited to be partnering with AG1. And AG1 is offering new subscribers a free $76 gift when you sign up. You'll get a welcome kit, a bottle of D3K2, and 5 free travel packs in your first box. So make sure to check out drinkag1.com/mayo to get this offer. That's drinkag1.com/mayo to start your new year on a healthier note. Welcome to the TGL presented by SoFi, golf's newest league. It's sharp and it's electric. How is it sharp? How is it electric? Good questions. Try this on for size. 2 hours of hammer-dropping, overtime-forcing, playoffs on-the-line golf with 24 of the best players from the PGA Tour. Tuesday, February 4th, we got the Boston Common versus Los Angeles Golf Club. Rory McIlroy, Keegan Bradley, Adam Scott, and Hideki Matsuyama taking on Colin Morikawa, Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose, and Sahith Theegala. This isn't your average Sunday pickup game. Tune in each week for TGL only on ESPN. Keep up. It's golf. Let's jump over to fantasynational.com/Mayo for that 20% off and take a look at what has happened at this course in the past. Checking out some course history. Obviously, as I mentioned, that Nick Taylor was le victor a year ago at this course, beating Chuck Hoffman. In the playoff, -21 was the winning score. The year before that, it was Scotty Scheffler at -19 over Nick Taylor, John Rahm, Sam Burns, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth. That was a great year, but that was also an elevated event, so you had all of the players in the field that year. Scotty Scheffler won the year before that over Patrick Cantlay in a playoff. Brooks won in 2021, beating K.H. Lee, a guy who has won at the Bunny Ranch, another TPC course. He's Spieth's name up there a few times as well, and JT Poston, someone I'm going to be be looking at this week. In 2020, Webb beat Finau in a playoff. That was like Finau's one time ever where he did well at this course because he's not party guy, Tony Finau. He's like a party with his wife, having 28 kids. That's fine. He didn't want to go out with the ruckus crowds and go get wasted at 6 a.m. So you have to have a certain vibe, and you have to be able to vibe with it if you're going to go with the crowd and have some success here. Not to say that like Scotty's out there getting wasted on the course, but he really embraces that sort of frat atmosphere that you have at the stadium course in Phoenix. Overall, over the past 5 years, Scotty, Thomas, Hideki, Sahith, and that's only Sahith in 3 years. He has 2 top 5 finishes in 3 years at this course, including a 5th last year. Nick Taylor, who was 1st and 2nd each of the past 2 years. Burns, Spieth, Horschel, Matty Fitz, Homa, and Keith Mitchell, of all of the players in the field, have the most strokes gained. Scotty with 2 wins and 4 top 10s in the past 4 years. Not bad. JT hasn't finished worse than 13th in any of the past 5 years, although he has never won this event. Other players who've done well, like Burns and Spieth, both have top 6 finishes each of the past 2 years. I've actually been somewhat encouraged by Jordan Spieth, albeit only through 2 rounds so far at Pebble Beach, but he's playing like normal Jordan Spieth, which is not the best guy in the field, so you can't expect him just to come out and win. But this has been a course that, even when he was struggling in his career, had played pretty well. He is last in the field in approach at Pebble Beach, so maybe that will be the last thing that comes back. But he's driving the ball incredibly well. He's 10th through 2 rounds in strokes gained off the tee. Just a little bit more on how guys did it over the past few years. Taylor and Chuck Hoffman finished 1-2 on the leaderboard, and they were 1-2 in putting. When you take a look at the strokes gained as well, 8.9, 7.2, and overall of the top 11 on the final leaderboard, all gained strokes putting, 8 gained plus 3 strokes, while only 5 gained around the green, which was somewhat atypical. You can see just basically almost everyone inside the top 25 gained strokes putting a year ago. And again, it was almost an across-the-board type thing, although 2, 3, and 3 did lose strokes around the green. It was pretty marginal, and Scotty was able to make that up by gaining almost 10 strokes on approach and almost 5 off the tee, where Taylor was marginal off the tee, about break even, good on approach, good around the green, and great with his flat stick. Hoffman was kind of the same. He gained more off. Basically, he gained off the tee and lost a little bit around the greens. Great on approach, great in putting. I don't think it's crazy to go back to Chuck Hoffman again. I mean, the guy did just piss down his leg at the American Express in a final group at 200-1, but he was also 200-1 to win the tournament, and he was in the final group. He just came second here last year out of nowhere, and it's not like he's playing bad golf at all. Clearly, he played in a final group pretty recently, and even came 25th at Farmers. And again, tee to green wise, kind of lit it up. The putting eluded him at the stadium course, and the putting's always going to elude him because he's a terrible putter. But if we take a look at how he's done at the Waste Management over the years, like he gained 7.2 last year, the year before that 3.7. If he can continue to play tee to green the way he's been playing, like he's going to be a bet for me. If he can just kind of come through on some of these, you can just see his career on the screen right now, his putting. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the past 6 years he's gained on the greens in Phoenix, a 14th and 24, 2nd and 14th each of the past 2 years. I mean, dude plays desert golf really well. So it's not crazy to me to think that this would be a spot for him to go to in order to really get ahead of everyone. First round leaders, Nick Taylor shot a 60 in the opening round. You'll see a 60 pop up. I remember Phil, the year that he ended up winning in 2000 and when the hell was that? 2014, I want to say. He shot a 60 in the opening round too. He just made, and he actually like lipped out the putt. It was either on, I think it was on 18. He lipped it out to shoot 59, which would have been awesome. This is another one of Phil's adopted home courses. So it was Taylor, Sahith, and then Mav McNeely, Novak, and Doug Gim were all 65. They were second. Nick Taylor shot 5 strokes better than they did. Jason Day in 2023 was 65. And 66 was Nick Taylor there. So Nick Taylor's first rounds here have been really good. KH Lee was 65, and Brooks and Thigala were 66. If you want to take a plunge on a first-round leader like Nick Taylor and or Sahith Thigala, make a ton of sense just based on the history that they've had at this course over the years, starting out of the gates very, very hot. So I've loaded in my model right now at Fantasy National, and let's take a look at it. It's been good at the top. At least that's my notes from it. Off the tee, 18%, approach 23%, around the green 14%. Really, factoring in more of approach than anything else, because approach is going to be more valuable when you're thinking about scoring. But again, making it a lot more flat than we normally see. So it's like adjusted tee to green and weighting that very heavily. Opportunities gained 6, par 5, 6%, par 4s 450 to 500 yards, 9 eagles, 5%, because there's eagles in play a ton at this course. Strokes gained putting, we got 5%, par 3s 175 to 200, 7% proximity 150 to 175, also weighted at 5%. I'm going to jack up putting a little bit more just to, even it out a little bit, and we'll update the model and see what it is telling us right now. I have it listed as past 36 rounds, and Scotty's number one. No shocker there. Scotty, Clanton, Hideki, Spawn, Kitayama, Patrick Fishburne, Corey Connors, Novak Nation, Sungjae, and Eri All. We'll have the full shot link data from both Spyglass and Pebble loaded in on Monday morning, so some of these numbers will update. I'll release my column on Monday afternoon after those figures have come out and after I do the bet show with Feinberg. So we will have a few adjustments to this. But listen, I'm looking at past 36 rounds. Not that much is going to change based off 4 rounds of data, unless the very back end was really good and you just had a really bad tournament. That might bump people down. Some other back end names that are rating out pretty well. I mean, Harry Hall just rates out well every week. But 4chan Kim is up there. The Gim Reaper, 11 and 12. The Glove, Ben Griffin. There's Hoffman at number 19. My guy, Rico Hey, as long as he never has to play the stadium course at the American Express ever again, maybe he could actually do something. But he still rates out really well at number 20. He missed the cut at Farmers, and it wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. Played the South course pretty well. Not too bummed about that. He lost 7 strokes putting in 2 rounds at the stadium course after being the 36-hole leader. That's not going to cut it. My guys did not bring their putter to the weekend at American Express, but I don't mind Rico here. He's been playing good golf. Once again, you can even see what he did during the swing season. We had a 3rd at Shriners. That's another desert course. It's not on the rotation. It's a TPC course. It's at elevation, and it's a desert course. These are some things to look at. Shriners would be one of the crossovers I would really consider this week when you're trying to find guys from the bottom end. There's JT Poston. He ended up winning. Rico was in 3rd. Gim Reaper came in 2nd. Matty Schmidt was in 3rd. There's KH Lee. We've seen him have success here before, and we saw him win at the Bunny Ranch as well. Davis Thompson, our guy Michael Kim, Toasty, is up there. Hey, there's Harry English. There's Eri O. So I think that these guys are very much in play for this tournament. Putnam's actually had some very good run at desert golf over the course of his career too. So very quickly, let's take a look at the Byron Nelson, if I spell it correctly. Byron Nelson, he won back-to-back years here in 2022 and 2021. So taking a look very quickly and just taking a look at the leaderboard. Okay, Hideki was in 3rd. He's won here twice. We just saw that Spieth was very much inside the top 10 most of the time over the past 4 years at this course. Justin Thomas. So all the good players did pretty well there. Is there anyone we can scroll down? So we saw Kuchar and Noren both have success at this course in the past. Funny to see Scotty down in 15th back when Scotty wasn't the best. So let's take a look at last year. So Pendrith ended up winning. So maybe there's some other names that we can think about here. Ben Ann. I had money on Ben Ann the year that I went to the Waste Management Open. He was the 54-hole leader, I believe, with Louis, who I also had money on. They both ended up losing to Webb. No, it wasn't Webb Simpson that year. Who the hell won that year? Maybe Hideki came back and won in a playoff. Can't really remember anymore. I did get some inside info that Matt Wallace has been at Scottsdale grinding this entire week while the other guys are at Pebble, because obviously he didn't qualify. He's in the field this week. He's back from Europe, so maybe he's another name that we can look at this week from the very bottom of the board. Just Semikawa, good at Eagle Semikawa, Campos, Jake Knapp. Jake Knapp's starting to play some good golf again, so maybe at a driver-heavy course, this is a spot where you can go to him. I know that people are thinking about him for Mexico. Maybe, I don't even know if he's in the field, to be perfectly honest. I would guess that he is trying to make up for some of those starts. Yeah, he's in there. I really like the way that he grinded to make the cut at Torrey Pines. He grinded to get me a top 40 at Torrey Pines as well after having a really bad 3rd round, and he obviously was shot out of a cannon in the 1st round at Pebble Beach. It seems like he's over his injury and he's starting to play some good golf again. So I would not neglect looking at Jake Knapp in a field like this. Ben Coles should have won this tournament, but he couldn't get it up and down on the very final hole. But again, he's someone who hits a lot of greens in regulation. If you can do that at this course, you're going to have some success. We'll see how Ben Coles has been doing. I would bet that his greens in regulation are probably pretty good. Oh yeah, so over the past 12 months, 72% driving accuracy, accuracy, 71% greens in regulation. Dude rarely putts well, although he did putt well in 2 rounds at least at the American Express. Other than that, it wasn't very good. Was cut last year at the Waste Management because his tee to green was awful, but his putting was good. Why does that always happen? The one week that these guys actually putt well are the weeks that obviously the rest of their game doesn't show up. It hasn't been as good for him ball striking wise as it was during the swing season. But it's not bad either. He's gaining almost every single week off the tee, mainly due to accuracy. And you will catch him with good iron weeks. We've seen it. Even at the Sony, 3.1. Like, that's enough. If you can kind of cobble together like a 3.2 off the tee and one of these like 3.5s, as long as you're making some putts. Listen, I'm not going to bet Ben Coles in a field where Scotty Scheffler is in it at less than 3-1 odds, because I'm probably going to take more of a name brand player in that regard. But if I'm thinking about a week where Scotty could run away with this, which has to be in everyone's back of mind thinking about this tournament, that where are some other ways where maybe we can win some money. And Ben Coles, like a top 20, might pay more than a Scotty Scheffler outright win. Those would be the sort of bets that I would be thinking about this week. We have to expand our minds, man, just a little bit this week if we want to turn away with a profit at this course. Other than that, let's go back to the model. So that was past 36 rounds. Let's shorten the sample, past 12 rounds. And we'll get more of the higher end players with more rounds to their credit after Pebble Beach once again. But we shrink that sample down a little bit. You got Hideki, Fishburne, Sungjae, Kitayama, Novak. When the hell is Kitayama going to continue to play so poorly? He's going to play himself out of the top of these models. He's been ass so far this year, but his swing season was so good. He's still getting credit for some of those rounds. It's the approach game that's gone away. How has he played here over the years? Well, he's 8th last year, 23rd the year before that. He's putted really well at this course, so maybe it's a spot. He won in Oman on the DP World Tour. I have no idea. I mean, it sounds like a desert course if there ever was one, although I think it's actually on the ocean in Oman. So, not everywhere is a desert in the Middle East, I suppose. So there is water over there, and sometimes they make their very nice golf courses on the edge of that ocean. Hoffman moves inside the top 10 at number 7 after Scheffler. The Glove, Thomas, Sam Stevens, Lee Hodges, JJ Spawn. It could be a good Spawn spot, honestly. He just continues to play pretty good golf. Nico Echeverria is another one. I bet on him this week. He started off fire, and then, he kind of went away. Nicholas Norgard Muller is another one who's in the field this week. He got his win on the DP World Tour a year ago. Ryan Fox will be teeing it up. We also have Thirsty Lawrence in the field, another big driver-heavy type guy. I'm not sure how any of these guys' games translate over to the PGA Tour. It's very difficult to tell because sometimes you have Euros come over that are really, really good, and then that were good overseas come over, and they do nothing. And then there was guys that were like kind of mediocre overseas, like the Pavons of the world, and all of a sudden they're just good on the PGA Tour. There's not a whole lot of rhyme or reason to it. Let's see here. Muller missed the cut at Farmers, had a disastrous day 2 at the North Course. I think he was 8 over that day because he had played the South Course really well. I wouldn't give up on him just yet. He fits the profile of a player who could be really good here. Then we take a look. That was Uncle Rico. Nicholas Echeverria, sorry. Let's see, missed the cut at Shriners. Yeah, he's hit or miss, but when that putter gets going, man, it's really good. But he's a lot like that Siwoo type thing too, where it's kind of a first or last scenario with him. Let's see, JJ Spawn playing some good golf. Obviously, a 3rd, 29th, and 15th in his 3 starts to kick off the season. Was 6th in Japan towards the end of last season as well. At the Waste Management Phoenix Open, he was 4th in his debut here, and has not really done much since. Although I would wager that he is playing a little bit better golf right now, especially ball striking wise. The chipping is a problem, and the putting is starting to get better, but he's not leaping up and taking tournaments. When it comes down to clutch time, Spawn's putting can get a bit wiry, as the kicker in the replacements would say. Although at Sony, he kept making bombs out of nowhere until he finally stopped making them. So that'd be somewhat difficult. Let's take a look at some of the other crossover stuff that I talked about. Or we can take a look at the rolling model and weight that out just a little bit and take a look at how I have this weighted. It'll all be even. And so I have it reverse weighted right now. We'll take a look at both ends. We're past 4, 8, 12, 24. They're all just weighted in reverse, with the most credit being given to the most recent form. I tend to like to look at it the other way, but I do think it's helpful sometimes to look at it this way. Straka, Sungjae, Thomas, Stevens, Scotty, all sort of the same people. You have Lee Hodges up there. There's Spawn again, Hostler, Hayden Springer. He had a good Torrey Pines. This is basically who had a good Torrey Pines. So let's switch it back the other way. We're going to give the least amount of credit to the past 4. 8 will be about, we'll call it double that. 12 a little bit more. and we'll just stagger it up pyramid-wise and call it, like, we'll put it on the long term, like long-term viability. Who has been the best? The past 100 rounds is getting 25%, past 50, 21%, all the way down to past 4 at 7%, with the same model that we just built out. So basically, if you can get Scotty to the top, you know you're doing something right, because he should be at the top. Scotty, Sungjae Hideki, Harry Hall, even in that, is still number 4. Thomas, Grazerman, Spawn, Hostler, Burns, Straka, Ben Griffin, Steven, CT Pan. Okay, now we're talking. The Panimal, Panamaniacs, unite, number 13 in the modeling. Connors, Lee Hodges. And Hayden Springer is still up there. Mav, Clanton, Poston, Echeverria, the Bridge Man, Jacob Bridgman, not to be confused with the man in the high Smith. Not the same person, as I have found out the hard way a few times. Ricky Hoffman, Kuchar Taylor, Colley, Thomas Dietrich, Kurt Kitayama, Victor Perez, Bobby Mack, Smalley, Min, Woo, Daniel Berger. There's Killa Keith Mitchell, Mark Hubbard, Hoagie. There's a casino right by the course, so maybe don't take Tom Hoagie. Lucas Glover, Victor Hovland, Patrick Fishburne, Denny McCarthy, Sam Ryder. These are all the names near the top right now. Let's see what Pan's been. I have no idea what Pan's been up to. He was 21st at Sony in his only start of the year so far. He was 6th in Japan before that, 2nd at John Deere. He was 3rd in Mexico, and 9th. Like, he has top 10 equity in this field just based on what we're looking at right now, because listen, with Scotty at the top, these guys are going to pay more from down the board. CT Pan's going to be at a sight, at a mine for a lot of people, so keep that in mind. Maybe he's just a flyer that we need to take. When we take a look at the odds in a second, maybe he's someone that ends up sticking out. We took a look a little bit earlier on at the Bunny Ranch, or TPC Craig Ranch, as they like it to be called. But we can go in and drop in with TPC Craig Ranch. Under courses on Fantasy Nationals, type in TPC. We can go, see Craig Ranch. There's 2 of them in there for some reason. Just click both of them. We'll turn it on. It's not going to double count your stats. We go to average, strokes gained total. All time at that course, Eckroat. There's CT Pan again. So Eckroat, CT Pan, 2 names that we consider. Ben Ann, also pretty high up on that list as well. Justin Thomas, Malnati, Berger, Hauser, Jake Knapp, Spieth, Burns, Bezadenhout, Hideki, Rio Hisatune is up there. He had a nice run at Wyndham, too. So if there is some sort of Wyndham, Scottsdale in correlation with this other Weisakoff course in Texas, that maybe Hisatune is someone that we can try to go back on. I don't feel like he's been playing very well since that great result at the Wyndham last year. He was 3rd at the Wyndham. Yeah, he hasn't really done much since. The best finish of 43rd so far this season. Also to look at, there's Scotty, Smalley, Coles, Eric Cole. Eric Cole and Phoenix. Eric Cole's got to win at some point. Maybe he'll win Pebble this weekend, as Cam admitted to us of being an addict of cocaine. He's hooked on it. That maybe Eric Cole can dig him out of the hole that he's in right now. Davis Riley, Siwoo, KH Lee, even with 2 wins, KH Lee. It's kind of funny that he's still only 6. He has 2 wins, like 2 missed cuts or whatever it might be. Ryan Palmer, Echeverria, Goddard played some good golf at Torrey Pines. Taylor Moore is the king of just posting 80s out of nowhere at this point. I don't know what happened to him. Dunlap, Cooch. So a lot of the similar names that we continue to see. So let's turn that off. So we're going to go past, it wasn't that KH Lee had missed the cut. It's that I only had it turned on past 12 rounds. That would make sense. Let's go past 12 rounds, and we're going to go down, and go to U.S. Open to see if that's just someone else can pop up from here. Both Højgaards are in the field, by the way. Rasmus Højgaard might be a good look. He's been playing some good golf. Nikolai has only played once this year, and that was in Dubai a few weeks ago. Strokes gained total for U.S. Opens of players in this field. You got Scotty, Matsuyama, Minwoo, Tom Kim, Fitzpatrick. He did win 3 years ago. Denny, Sam Burns, Trey Mullenix, Davis Thompson, Nasty Nate Lashley, Wyndham Clark, Daniel Berger, Victor Hovland, Patrick Rogers, Streelman, Chez Reavie, who has a runner-up finish to Gary Woodland here, Jordan Spieth, Pavon, Nick Hardy, Seamus Power, Corey Connors, Matt Wallace is up there. Okay, maybe Wallace is someone I'm going to write him down. Matt Wallace. Like I said, I got that inside info. He's been grinding. Akshay, Dietrich, Harmon, Keith Mitchell. There's Fowler, Webb Simpson. So just different slew of guys. We didn't see any new names outside of like Mullenix and Nate Lashley pop up. I have no clue what Nate Lashley's been doing. That's why you're at one U.S. Open, too, for Nate Lashley. He doesn't make the U.S. Open very often, but he was, the only time he's ever played it was in 2000. So that number is from 2019 when he came 28th at the U.S. Open. He's been bad recently. Miscut, 37th, miscut, 55th, 16th. It was better through the better part, but it's not like you're betting Nate Lashley at this course. Maybe as a first-round leader, Lashley can do some damage here because he is local to the area, and he's had some good run at this tournament in the past 4 years. He does have a top 5 finish. He's been inside the top 20, but he had been playing better golf at that point. When I'm thinking about corollaries of players in my mind, maybe we should look more that Eric Cole is kind of the new Nate Lashley. If people don't remember, Nate Lashley was a Monday qualifier for the Rocket Mortgage, then went wire to win that year at the Rocket Mortgage. It was the first time that a qualifier had won a PGA tournament in ages. He was just kind of a grinder. Like, I don't know if he was a mini tour guy or just a KFT guy. But that's all Eric Cole was till he kind of burst onto the scene a little bit. So that's somewhat intriguing if we're trying to make a parallel between guys that, go get your bag right now, Eric Cole, or you might end up like Nasty Nate, where you have to come back into these fields in a little bit. But other than that, that's, the other angle that I really wanted to look at. We can take a look at Sawgrass as well. I'm going to click off of a U.S. Open. And if you did want to go back and check out some like Wingfoot type stuff, when you click on U.S. Open, you'll see all of the U.S. Open courses in the database that you can go individually click on if you wanted to. Because honestly, if you're looking at the U.S. Open style courses, Pinehurst doesn't have a ton in relation, although typical U.S. Open players did well at Pinehurst a year ago. That I would just take LA Golf Club out of it because that one is just weird, especially when you look at the players that were up near the top and who wasn't there. I thought was more intriguing than anything else versus some of the other years that we've seen with the USGA setup. If you are in the Pinehurst area, by the way, or you live around there, or I'm flying into Raleigh and got a day to kill, I'm going to Pinehurst the week of the Valspar, I think it is, just to play. Me and a couple buddies are going down. We were going to go to Scotland for our 40th birthday, but Cuss got too antsy about going to Scotland. We waited too long, couldn't book, so a group of us are going to Pinehurst at the end of March. So hopefully it's not too cold, but if you're local to the area or have any tips, email in mayomediainc@gmail.com. You can just always respond to the newsletter. Hit me up on Instagram. I don't have it's funny, my account got hacked last week on Twitter, as everyone knows, but it opened up my DMs of being open, and the amount of I couldn't remember why I had closed my DMs anyway, and the amount of moronic DMs that I got, not from any of you good people who are watching right now, is I just looked at them for 2 seconds, no, I am not doing this. Again, people just being mad that 200 to 1 bets don't hit, and just vicious things. I don't need to deal with this in my life, so I had to close them again. So if you're on Twitter, you can, that's why I say on Instagram, you can hit me up at the PME because very few people follow me on Instagram. It's not a work account. It's my personal account. Mayo Media Inc. @gmail.com, responding to the newsletter. These are all ways that you can get at me. I have my assistant check the corporate one, but other than that, they'll pass on anything that I really want to see to me. So you can get in touch with me that way if you're looking for it. So I turn off U.S. Open. I did turn off U.S. Open. Let's take a look at Sawgrass. Why not? We're here anyway. Might as well take a quick gander. TPC Sawgrass, past 12 rounds. So we got Lashley, Wallace, JT Poston, and we'll take a look at average per round. Maybe even take a look at Tee to Green. Hideki, Scotty, so 2 winners here. Siwoo, Mr. Pete Dye. Justin Thomas, been great at this course, but again, all the best players. EVR, who was 500 through 5 at Pebble. I don't know what the hell happened to him. Victor Perez, okay, did not expect that. Victor Hovland, Austin Eckroat again. So that's a few Eckroat times we've seen his name pop up. I'll open up his player profile here to see how he's been doing. Don't recall, he won obviously in the swing season, but he was 15th at Century, and then he has been back-to-back miscut at the Sony and the Farmers. How is he doing? Old Eckroat is T4 at Pebble Beach, okay, after 2 rounds. So his game is coming back a little bit. Maybe this could be a decent spot. He was top 10 at the Wyndham. Obviously, he won at PGA National a year ago. He missed the cut in Phoenix before that, but let's see, WM, it's the only time he's ever played in Phoenix. Maybe he's got his shit together a little bit. He put it in a nice run at the Bunny Ranch as well a couple years ago at the Byron Nelson. Yeah, he was second, the only time that he played it in 2023. Putted the lights out, couldn't chip. I had him that week, so I was really rooting for him to win, but obviously it did not come through in that sense. So those are the players tee to green that have been pretty good. David Skins, okay, that was only 2 rounds, just could not putt at Sawgrass at all. Hubbard, tee to green wise, in his 12 rounds, been good. Damon's interesting. Obviously, he put in a good effort in the bad conditions at Torrey Pines, ended up coming in 9th. That was the first time he'd been really good in a competitive field in a while. Maybe with the Netflix bump coming, with him being featured again in season 3 of the, whatever the hell that show is called, the Final Tee, Final Drive, Swing Season, whatever it's called. Anyway, not important. He's a big part of that, though. He should be on the TGL broadcast. That's my hot take on all of this. Corey Connors, Sung Jae, it's all the same sort of guys. Hadwin, Tom Kim, Nick Taylor, Kitayama, Ben Griffin. There's Taylor Moore again, although I just can't do it to myself. Akshay. I feel like Akshay would be good at this course, but that's me. I think Akshay is going to be good at every single course. And then, he does have, 3 wins now? 2 wins in a very short career? Dude's only, 21 years old, so maybe I'm being a bit too hard on him. Let's jump over to DraftKings Sportsbook, because you can just search it on Fantasy National. You go to the top bar. When the odds are loaded in on DraftKings and MGM and wherever else, they end up getting put in here. Unfortunately, there are extra names in the field based on the DraftKings Sportsbook odds, because they've had their odds out for ages, basically since the end of last year, because they have a retail book at TPC Scottsdale. So they've just been offering odds for this tournament, and they offered a bunch of players who are not in the field. So maybe you wasted your money betting on them. Hopefully they refund you on your money. But you end up with some pretty good odds if you had bet Justin Thomas, because I think he was going off at 30 or 25 to 1 when it seemed like they had Rory in the field and all these guys. But the odds right now are Scotty at plus 290, Thomas at 14, Hideki at 18, then you got Sung Jae at 20. Those are the only 4 guys 20 to 1 or below. Burns and Connors, Burns at 30 is a pretty good shout. Victor's showing some life at Pebble. He's only 35. Sahith is 40. Then you're into 45s with Ben Ann, Grazerman, Tom Kim, Seb Straka, and Bobby Mack. After that, you got Spieth, Wyndham Clark, Rasmus Højgaard, all at 50. Nick Taylor to repeat at 60 to 1, same odds as Bo Hossler. It's funny that these two are the same odds, considering Bo Hossler has never won shit in his life, and Nick Taylor's a 5-time winner. But here we are. Davis Thompson, Max Homa now down to 60, same as Mav McNeely. Clanton at 65, along with Fitz and Poston. So Poston at 65, probably a play. I think that you can probably find a better number once the rest of the books honestly release anything. And if you are a player at Bet365, I saw Kirsch talk about people putting their boost numbers out this week. And I always take a boost every single week. Bet365 offers a 30% boost up to, I think, a $5,000 win. Depending, if you're a bad bettor like me, they give you as much of a boost as you want in terms of how much you can win. But that always comes out on Wednesday. So if there is someone you're looking for, if you think the odds are going to remain relatively stagnant, just wait until the Wednesday and bet it on Bet365. You get one of them. I'm sure DraftKings, FanDuel, CoolBet, all of those places have similar things. It's just that's my primary book right now, so that's the one I've been using for ages. So I always just use up the gobble up the 30%, use it on the enhanced win, and get it up a little bit more. So that's available to anyone who lives in a state or a country where Bet365 is allowed. I would highly recommend CoolBet to people who live in Canada and are outside of Ontario. Code DoggerPass gets you a nice bonus over there. They're the sponsors of the Dogger Pass podcast on Mayo Media Network. Akshay is 65, so is Kitayama, Spawn, Minwoo. Then you're just into your regular derpa-derps. Eckroat's 90. That's a pretty good number. Dunlap at 100 is actually a pretty good look as well for a guy with, he hasn't won a strong field, but again, this isn't a super strong field. There's Chuck at 100. Hoagie down at 100 is kind of wild considering the amount of pressure he can put on pins. So Hoffman at 100 is a look. It's all just terrifying because Scotty's sitting up there. Doug Gim is there. Nikolai Højgaard at 100. He's a big driver, heavy type course guy as well. Played really well at the Masters a year ago. But yeah, I don't really see anyone else from the bottom of the list that I'm super into. Chan Kim is 180. Definitely not betting him outright. Wherever Lashley is, maybe a top 40 on Lashley ends up paying. Let's see what his odds are. Oh, Lashley is... Where are you at, Nate Lashley? Lashley, Nate Lashley is 350 to 1. So yeah, we even that out. The top 40 odds on him will probably be plus 550. That and first round leader would be the type of looks that I'm going for this week in the betting market. Unless I find someone at the top I really like. If I plunge on Burns and Sahith or something like that, maybe that's the route that I want to take this week in Phoenix. Thank you all for watching, by the way. Hit the like button, rate and review the podcast, sub to the newsletter, and code Mayo at Underdog Underdog. It's the week to do it. The free picks, the bonuses, the profit boost, it's all there for you if you use code Mayo. So I highly recommend that you do it. Take the nesty plunge. Get in the game at Underdog using code Mayo, and fantasynational.com/Mayo will get you 20% off, and you can search and build your own models. And you saw how easy it is to do with my walkthrough today. All right, I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!